So we do have a packed, quick agenda for you today, and we're going to go over quickly the Expert Access for Blackbaud CRM program from Zuri Labs. And then we have two wonderful guest speakers, clients who work with the Expert Access Solutions Bundle, Luke McGarity of University of Birmingham and Will Curtis of CommonSpirit Health. Very thankful for their participation and support today. Then after that, we will be demoing two of the tools of that are the Outlook add-in, and then a little bit with our Velocity data management engine, and appreciative of our senior developer, software developer, John Sturmer, for bringing his work to the webinar today. And we will be having a Q&A at the end as necessary, and we're ready to roll through. So thank you all for joining in today. Who is Zuri Group? Zuri is a strategic and consulting company that has expertise is based in nonprofit organizations, higher education, and healthcare organizations. We've been around for 16 years, have over 80 people on staff, and we pride ourselves on being that intersection of people, process, and technology while maintaining objectivity and an agnostic approach to make sure that we are the client advocates and not advocates for particular companies or products in particular. So that's a lot of what we do, is making sure that we are here for you and your advocate to understand how to appropriately match technology to the mission of the organization. We are the most experienced Blackbaud CRM organization out in the market today. Over 250 years of combined Blackbaud CRM experience on staff. 50 plus Blackbaud CRM organizations use the Velocity tool and the Expert Access solutions. It is the Velocity tool in particular I'm mentioning because it is the largest install base of any Blackbaud partner tools out there in the market today. And that experience also means that because we have a dedicated support team, and we support our clients with self-service learning management systems as well. So there is not a greater, we do pride ourselves in making sure that we have the Blackbaud CRM experience that makes these tools you'll see today what they are. Just a small sampling of the kind of users that we appreciate the ability to be a part of their mission. You can see on here large hospitals, large universities. This is just a small sampling of the large amount of organizations that have chosen to work with us in the Expert Access for Blackbaud CRM world. Now, what is Expert Access? It's really a set of tools that surrounds Blackbaud CRM in these four categories in order to make each of these areas really surround it for productivity and for management and for integrations. Whether you're a fundraiser or on the front end, or a database user on the back end, or you're managing the database or you're creating integrations, these are four buckets of areas where we have found through our experience are necessary to surround Blackbaud CRM and make it as powerful as it can be in order to match and exceed the needs of the users in 2023. And you can see in the database productivity, there are revenue global changes, pronouns, recipient batch, and the fundraiser productivity. You'll see today the Outlook plugin, but we've done work on fundraiser on the go to make that an incredible resource for people on the go to be able to manage their constituents and their plans. On the database management side, batch splitters, sync enhancements, VBIS development tools, and on integrations, we've done work with the APIs, single sign-on, and the Velocity data management engine you'll see today. These are an incredible set of tools that surround Blackbaud CRM in order to help every organization that relies on it day to day to do their jobs better, to create better relationships and raise more money for their cause. We do like to be upfront about pricing. The pricing is an all-inclusive annual subscription. There are 30 plus solutions included today. No per user, no server costs, no license keys. You are brought in on an annual basis. The FTP is open to you so that at the time that works for you, you're able to install and manage and put in the solutions to whatever environment you might want test staging or productivity or their production whenever is right and fits your own current schedule. So that's one of the key benefits here is you have one cost and you're able to do all of the aspects that you might need. Then you have personalized client engagement. We meet with our new clients once a month to gauge feedback and give opportunities to say, here's what other clients are doing in similar situations. And we encourage and use those meetings in order to create a community around expert access. And you'll hear a little bit about that today from our speakers. But it really does create this way that we can enable sharing among the community of Blackbaud CRM today, and we're very proud of that and appreciate it, of all of our clients. And then you'll have input into roadmap and new products as well. So we have co-development opportunities. Every single solution within the Expert Access program has been co-developed and worked with clients together, and that is part of what makes this an incredible program, because it's all user-based and built out of what clients need. So with that, I will now go ahead and turn it over to our first speaker of the day. I'm very proud to introduce Luke McGarity from the University of Birmingham, and he will be discussing his work with Blackbaud CRM through Health Check and Expert Access. Thank you, Luke, for joining.
Thanks, Andrew. Nice to meet you all. So I'm Luke. I'm the head of data and insight at the University of Birmingham in the UK. We're a sort of medium-sized institution. We've got about 38,000 students. We're about to do our 125th centenary in, I think it's about 2 years' time. Obviously, we'll have to do a campaign for that. And we're ranked about 14th in the UK and 90th in the World Global Rankings at the moment. Now, we migrated to Blackbaud CRM from Razor's Edge in 2018. And following that, we had about 2 years of navigating the initial teething problems. We went around every single team and made sure we were adapting CRM perfectly to their workloads. We built customizations as and when needed for each team to help them through it all. But cue the pandemic coming around in 2020, we were at a point where we needed to take stock of what we'd done. We were trying to prep up a new strategy for the next couple of years, and we needed a kind of audit as to what we had done on CRM. So we approached Zuri for a CRM health check. So Zuri provided us with a couple of consultants to give us some outside eyes to engage users across the department, both anonymously and in person, to engage non-technical users, to try and open doors and have conversations that me and my team weren't easily able to have, purely because we were the ones doing all the work at the end of it anyway. And also, somewhat sub-benefit at this early stage was to build out a business case for future investment as well, depending which way the health check went. And this went really, really well. There was a survey put up that any member of staff could fill in whenever they liked, with their pain points, their loves, their hates, any kind of review of CRM. There were one-to-one sessions with teams. There was one-to-one sessions with our director. I had a number of staff come back to me asking if they could have a follow-up session because they felt it was an excellent counselling service. And ultimately, after about a month of this work, Zuri created a lengthy report downloading all of the information from our department into how CRM could be made better to work for them. This report, it covered massive projects, it had quick wins, it had small data cleaning issues, it had entire customizations recommended out of it. It was a real motley collection of projects. So my team then essentially had to go away and lock ourselves in a room and treat it like we'd just had a financial audit. So we went through every single point that was presented to us and responded to it. We RAG rated every single action point. And then eventually we condensed them into what you see here, these project buckets. And the idea then was that the department gets to choose. And I was quite, I don't want to say cruel, but I was incredibly fixed with the department. You can't have all of this. You can have a few. So this sheet we've taken to the department 3 times now, and each time they've been allowed to pick 2 projects from it. And then that's what my team will focus on for the next couple of months. Some of these projects required investment, some of these projects required different directors to argue for their particular thing over the other. Alumni relations, arguing with the fundraising team as to who gets priority, that kind of thing. But by and large, it was the department deciding where the needs were for improving CRM going forwards. One of the eventual outcomes from this was that we were able to get investment into another team member. We were also able to get extra investment into the expert access program as well. So Velocity and the Outlook plugin have been working on stream for us. I think that is about it as a summary of where we've got up to with that health check. Overall, it's proved incredibly helpful. It unlocked a lot of capacity, money, and gave my team a direction for several years. So we didn't have to keep on doing this iterative team strategy approach. We could just take a download of all of the data across the department and choose where we could add the most value. So I think I'm going to hand back to Andrew now.
Thank you very much, Luke. We really appreciate you walking through that, and it's a wonderful story to hear how. And I think that's the part that I appreciate most, is it's a very relatable story to go from, as we've talked about, you come into the house, and then after a couple of years, you realize what needs to be fixed and redone in the house as you've moved in, and then being able to go through this health check review. And I like what I've heard you say that before, a motley set of projects, but then being able to come out of that and see which ones out of that group, expert access, allowed for to be able to be done faster and more cost efficient. So thank you for that. And next we'll move to Will Curtis from CommonSpirit Health. And Will, if you could introduce yourself and begin, I appreciate it. There you are.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate being asked to come and speak with everyone. I'm Will Curtis. So I'm from CommonSpirit Health. For us, it's all about our passion and purpose, meeting our donors where they are to be able to align with our purpose. I work for CommonSpirit Health, which many of you may not know is a conglomerate of Dignity Health, healthcare system out west, and CHI, which is across the United States. We make up roughly in 21 states all across the United States. I think we hit the East and the West Coast at this point. You see it. We're even expanding soon into Utah as well. So we like to grow and continue to expand. We're one of the largest not-for-profit hospitals across the United States. We are on both CRM and Razor's Edge. We have roughly over 2.5 million records across our databases, across both RE and CRM. We have the privilege, and I guess we're lucky enough to be able to leverage about 75% of the expert access stuff. So I'm going to highlight a few of them around the sort of core principle, which is matching technology and mission for us. And when I think about technology and the way we're able to sort of come together, for me, there's 3 sort of core values I like us to think about when I'm partnering with a vendor. And Zuri was kind enough to sort of work with us when we were doing all of these. Transparency, both from the transparency of the vendor working with us, but also the transparency of what's happening for our end users, so they understand what's sort of happening whenever they leverage one of the things that's happening in the system, whether it's a new customization or a data list or anything like that. I'm all about sort of transparency and understanding of what's happening. And obviously for our end users, it's always about ease of use. If it isn't easy for them to use, then it's more than likely they aren't going to use it. So I'm a big stickler when it comes to making sure that it's as simple as possible and reduces the amount of effort and work for whatever user is being asked to do the task. And then with everything, we always have to think about being able to upgrade. We're on the cadence of upgrading our CRM every tick-tock, so we're getting ready to upgrade to SP33 with CRM. We're currently on 31, so we like to keep up to date as possible to take advantage of some of the releases and security pieces for us as well. I put together sort of this triangle of 3 different core ideas to talk about today. I'll start at the bottom with data quality. I think, as you might guess, it's one of probably the most challenging things that we all face. One of the things I think that makes us unique, probably than most organizations, is we continue to have conversions, which is how it made it to my lovely triangle. Right now, we have 1 CRM instance. We have another 12 plus Razor's Edge instances from when Dignity Health and CHI came together. We finished actually 2 weeks ago a conversion of 7 Razor's Edge databases coming into our CRM instance. With that, we were lucky enough to continue to have some of these options that they Zuri's put together with the expert access. One of those tools is the duplicate compare. We had previously created a completely custom version of merging records across the system, and we've actually even presented it ages ago at a Blackbaud conference around just sort of our thinking and the way of which we were doing it. But over the years, we realized that managing the code and managing sort of what's going on wasn't advantageous for us, because it was one of those things that we would have to continually to work on and continue to try to make it upgradable, which wouldn't have worked for us. So we took a step back, looked at what Zuri was doing with theirs, and realized they met probably 80% of what we were hoping to achieve with our current build out. And then we worked, and I put in some suggestions into their support portal to sort of say, hey, we have some ideas, would you be willing to work with us? And one of the great things that Zuri was quickly to respond with was, yes, what are your ideas? What can we do to make it better? Which isn't one of those things that we traditionally see, or I don't traditionally see with a lot of vendors, is the willingness to sort of talk through some of their core products and how they're able to change it and what recommendations we might have to sort of improve it. So we made a few suggestions to them, and hopefully, I'm knocking on wood, they'll be able to apply them to the core product with it. One of the things that was nice about it and is they didn't make any sort of promises that, yes, it'll absolutely be done. It was, let us take it back, let us talk with the team. And then they continued to upgrade and update us along the way, sort of where they are, what their likelihood of some of these features being released, and what's going to sort of happen with it. So it was nice for us to be able to have that tool, particularly built by them and managed by them, so we don't have to worry about sort of the code update. Built into this duplicate compare, one of the things we have to deal with as an organization is sites. And this tool is able to accommodate sites and allow our end users to see what records, what source and target are coming together, what's being matched, how it's being matched. Again, giving that sort of transparency to the end users of why we're doing what we're doing sort of behind the scenes at the system level for our end users. So it's nice to be able to have that and allow them to see that from an end user perspective. Some of the other data quality ones that have been sort of monumental for us to not have to build out on our own is the constituent global change. There was many things that we end up having to do quite often, which is add solicit codes, as many of you probably do. We have a lot of constituencies that we have across the system. One's a lot that we've built out because Blackbaud has their core constituencies, but we needed to expand those and be able to add those with a query and a selection versus having to one-off and rely on us sort of remembering and working with our end users has changed a lot of workflow for us, which has been very, very helpful to us. And the last one I'll sort of mention for this is the event designation updater. We just thought about that one and always said we'll get to it. And luckily and nice for us is that Zuri had already made it. So we were able to now attach revenue category to event information, so we could then pull it into queries and reports, and a much more streamlined process for us, and sort of remove some challenges that we were experiencing without us having to worry about code or without us having to build it. So it was just a nice to have and a nice surprise when we joined the expert access. I'll move to the top of my period, which is conversion. We have used Velocity, which John will be talking about in a little while, to show off to you. And a mirage of different ways, specifically around the conversion for us, is being able to change data once it's been migrated over. I think one of the things that we realized early on is we only have one developer, and having to write particular SQL code or write codable changes and doing all that stuff was very burdensome for him, and he was having a hard time keeping up with all the changes we needed. But with Velocity, we were able to write scripts, run them at the frequency that was helpful to us. We even use it as part of our patient process to be able to import some of the patient information that we have from the hospitals and to be able to move data around through Velocity. And the best part about it is while Zuri has made it really, really malleable, we continue to find creative ways to push it to its limits. And the team at Zuri continues to listen to us and continues to take ideas from us and build it into the product and sort of think through it within the product. So they never sort of sit on anything, which is nice for us because we continue to like to push the edge with some of this stuff. And then my favorite one and the middle one, which is efficiencies. We're always striving for efficiencies at our organization. We have many foundations that are 1 or 2 people across the United States, while we also have foundations that are 30 plus. So we're always trying to be efficient at the top and the bottom for those different foundations, because the 1 or 2 hat people wear, the 1 or 2 site people wear many hats. They could one day be doing marketing, they could be doing fundraising, they could be doing a whole different things. And one of the things that we came to Zuri with is we learned very suddenly that we were going to be moving from an Outlook shop to a Google shop, and we needed to be able to have an Outlook version in Gmail. And we came to Zuri and said, hey, we need this. Can you work with us? And they said, sure, we don't have it yet, but we'd love to build it with you. And I will tell you, I was lucky enough to partner with John and John Stormer, who's on the call today, and say, here are the ideas, here are our must-have, here's what we need to have. What do we do? What does it take? And how do we build this sort of from the ground up to do what we need to do as an organization and to help multiple organizations? And that process for me, and I've done it with more than a few vendors, has been significantly more painful with the other vendors than it was with Zuri. And the main reason I think that is the willingness and availability of John and the team to be there. Even in the late hours, I feel bad, and I'm sure John has said many bad things about me under his breath, which he probably hasn't, because I would send him a message at 4 on Pacific time, and it's 7 o'clock at night Eastern time, and he still gets on the phone, works with me and partners, and talks through the challenges of sort of what we needed to do and how we needed to debug sort of the situation we were going through. Which is really nice from my perspective, to be able to get someone who responds quickly, is able to work through it, to able to get through the challenges that we were experiencing, and then see it work the way we were hoping it would work once we got to the end result, which we pushed out to our end users about 6 months ago. And we've had a massive adoption from it because of the work and the feedback that Zuri was able to take, both from me and from our end users. Once we were able to release it. So that's one of the nicest things, I think, is the partnership we're able to have with Zuri to make sure that not only do we meet our expectation, that exceeds it, and that we aren't forgotten once we get live and we're using the application, that it continues to evolve and continues to mature as an application. So I'm very grateful to have John as a partner when we were doing this. He was spectacular to work with. And I'm very excited that I was given the honor to be able to introduce him, to show off some of the cool things that he's worked on, built, and developed, both with the Outlook integration and Velocity. So with that, I will hand it over to John and say thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you and Luke both. And so Mr. John Stormer, would you introduce yourself a little bit? And we're going to start with the Outlook add-in for Expert Access.
Mm-hmm. Hi, everyone. My name is John Stormer. I am a software developer here with Zuri, and I am primarily responsible for maintaining our Expert Access products, as well as developing against any new requirements that may come in. Primarily, I worked on building the Outlook add-in and the Gmail add-in, as Will was so nice to mention. And thank you for all the kind words. That was very flattering. But I also work on maintaining and adding new features to Velocity. So with that, I will go ahead and kick off. First of all, can everyone see my screen? Or at least anyone who can respond to me. Fantastic.
Yes.
Okay. So as you can see, we are in the Windows desktop client for Outlook. Once the add-in is installed, you'll see this new set of actions that you can perform within the context of reading an email or composing an email. And basically your choices are, would you like to file an interaction or a contact report? Would you like to view and edit information about the constituent you find? Or do you just need to sync over any of your upcoming tasks, expected interactions, planned interactions, or steps, just so you have them in your calendar and you've got reminders and ways to go ahead and mark these steps completed in CRM. So the very first thing that happens when you go to any of these actions is we need to find out who you're dealing with. So we will go ahead and kick off a quick search into CRM's constituent database and try to find matches for you based on who you're conversing with. Now, by default, we're going to go ahead and put who we feel is the primary target. In this case, because Amy is the one who sent the email, we're going to go ahead and start with her. But if we need to jump to anyone else on the thread, we've got quick links to do that. So we can go back to Amy for now. This is not limited to searching emails. You have some options here, but you can also go ahead and search by name, lookup ID. You can throw wildcards in there. Almost anything that CRM lets you do, we can do that here as well. But once you've located the constituent you want to work with, you go ahead and choose them. And now whatever the selected action was is what is going to take place. So in this instance, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Amy's contact info. Feel free to send all kinds of letters and whatnot. This is just the corporate office in Bend, Oregon for Zuri Group. So nothing's going straight to her. But from here, you can view, edit, and add addresses, email addresses, and phone numbers. All the forms and the form fields behave like they do in CRM. Everything is pulled real time. So anything that you have in place in your address type, phone type, email address type list is pulled in real time. Countries cascade into states. All the functionality you'd expect in CRM is present here. Now, the nice thing is during the configuration and setup of the add-in, you have a choice if you want to utilize our bio update customization, or if you want to go ahead and allow direct writes to the database. If you choose to use our bio update customization, all of the changes and additions that are made in here will go into a custom constituent update batch. That is the part of our bio update customization that allows you to have a centralized approver that goes into batch, uses our side-by-side comparison tool within batch to see what changes are being requested compared to what's in the database, and decide whether or not they want to approve it and allow it to flow through into the batch. And also, any of these are clickable. So when you are on mobile, this will bring up a dialer, your email application, your mapping application. It's all available here. And to kind of sidestep onto that, once this is installed for you as the user, it follows you. So wherever you log in, whatever device you're on, whatever platform you're on, this add-in is going to be there, and it's going to look and behave the same way. So an example here is Outlook on the web. The add-in is here, and it works just the same way, looks the same way. We've got some screenshots of my phone. So I am not able to share that, but you can see looks and functions the same way. And of course, we have many, many Mac users in Zuri Group, Andrew being one of them, and he has helped make sure that this works and functions as expected for the Mac equivalent software. So the other features, jumping into filing reports and interactions, the goal of these forms is to really just make it where you can jump in and click file, click save, and you're done. We're going to pre-populate as much of the form as we can. Most of it is going to come from the email that you're dealing with. So summary you'll see is the subject. We've already got status, owner, expected date, actual date, all of these things. The comments are, it's the full, thread of the email. It's the full conversation up to that point. You can add participants. In the case of dealing with prospect plans and steps, you also have additional solicitors. You have next step information if you want to edit through that. Basically, this is just trying to make it as easy as possible for fundraisers to get in there and log that they're having some kind of communication with a prospect. And then the final feature we have here, there's no UI for it. It is the task sync. Click this, we're gonna get a quick message letting me know that my 2 sample appointments are being created. We have, if you have any planned interactions or planned steps that are future dated, they're going to show up in this. If there is an actual time set, an expected time, you will get an appointment at that time. Otherwise, it goes in as an all-day event. The most helpful part of this is that now you've got Outlook, which could be on multiple devices, notifying you that you have some expectations that you need to fulfill with a prospect. Once that's done, you can come in, click Mark Complete, and it will take care of completing the planned step for you and assigning the actual dates. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. We have a pretty large backlog of new features and improvements that have been suggested to us, and there's just a lot of really cool things that we are in the middle of developing. We have a quarterly release cadence that we are adapting to sticking toward a little more strictly than we have been. But yeah, there's a lot of good things coming. So that is that's going to conclude what we have for the Outlook add-in for now.
Thank you. I think you nailed it when you talked about how this allows fundraisers to work and input into CRM and research CRM from where they're working, where they live, and they live all day in email. And we've heard from clients who said once they put this tool in, they were getting updates from fundraisers that hadn't updated anything in Blackbaud CRM in ages, because they gave them the opportunity on how to use this within a tool they were comfortable with and where they were working. So it brought it to them, much in the way that the fundraiser on the go, the Zuri edition, Frogs, does on the mobile. We see this as a continuum of experiences between using Blackbaud CRM to using it within Outlook and then using it within the mobile environment. And thank you so much for showing the Outlook add-in here, and really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And now to the brand that is on your t-shirt there, your Velocity t-shirt.
Yes, now we're on to Velocity. I did not create this. That is our illustrious developer, Patrick Shepard, who did that. It is an amalgamation of multiple customizations that we had done discreetly over the course of many, many years. Many of them were born from clients talking to us about just some nice to have tools. And, we build them one off, and then you go to the Zuri integration section under administration, and it would just be, a huge list of things that we had done. And Patrick had the great idea to go ahead and just try and combine everything together into a single CRM-based software package that is responsible for moving data between 2 points. So Velocity is really just an easy way for devs and non-devs alike to design business processes that take data from one source and place it to a target. Now, part of the concept of sources and targets we have a laundry list of them. I mean, sources can be internal from ad hoc queries and from stored procedures, on-the-fly queries, data form loads, whatever you could think of. And even as far as we've got custom integrations with third-party APIs, we can take in flat files like CSVs and read them as tabular data just to bring them into the system. And then, of course, your targets are writing to staging tables, writing to data forms, as if you're a user using the UI to get to those data forms. Same thing with record operations. You can write to batch, you can write back out to flat files. And that's just what comes in the core package. We've built this in a way where it's extensible, so we have the concept of add-on modules for one-offs with third parties, such as HighBright, Evertrue, Engaging Networks, Luminate Online, and those are available and ready to install if you'll need it, but it is totally optional. So to get into the Canvas demo, as you can see here, the concept is, the larger concept of this task is you, from a third party, are being given a flat file of data that came from canvassing different donors. And the idea is we want to grab any updates that were made to biographical information for those donors. We want to get any gifts that they gave imported into the system. We want to add any kind of interests or interactions that were logged while speaking with them. And of course, if anyone has decided that they need to be opted out, we can go ahead and remove them from our database. So when you think of doing something like that and you're receiving a flat file that has this information in it, you unknowingly break it down into these different processes in your head when you're going to do it manually. It's like, okay, I need to parse through this list and go through these folks one by one and update their biographical information based on what's in here. And then I need to go through and I need to add their gifts and their interests and any interactions. You have to do all these things manually, and that can take a while. So when you break it down into those multiple steps, that's where the concept of building a velocity integration comes in. So step one, we need to get this data into CRM. So what we're doing is we have a flat file source set up to a staging table target. All this is saying is we're going to build a map where all the fields that are in that flat file are going to get transferred in this way to fields in a staging table. This is just a direct map, very simple. You hit start process, it reads the data from the flat file, pushes it into the staging table. The significance of that is that staging table is directly linked up into ad hoc query as its own node, and it can also be linked to existing record types in CRM. So if you want to go ahead and start with a constituent query, you can drill down into the velocity staging tables to see this data. So you have a great way to go ahead and easily one-to-one identify who is in your system that's in that flat file and decide how to make updates to them. From there, we go on into making those updates. You can write an ad hoc query, like I said, off of that staging table. The results that come back from this are automatically registered in your source. So you can see the fields are all available here to map over to the target fields in the batch template. This is all going to a constituent update batch. And the way the data flows might change from field to field. So a lot of these you'll see it's just a direct mapping. Whatever first name is in the staging table goes straight into batch. But sometimes something like a title, there's an actual underlying ID for that because that is a code table lookup. Well, we can go ahead and pass in the string, the text version of the title, and Velocity will do a lookup against the title code table to find the ID that the batch wants. We've got the same concept with constant values where you can just plug in whatever you want, including making a selection from a code table list or a simple data list or searches. You can write formulas, which are even more powerful. You can just write actual code in there for how to manipulate that data before it makes it into your target. So that is extremely powerful. And as you can see, this really, it'll go row by row and push this data into a batch for you. And when it's done, you can just hop on in the batch, validate and commit, and you're good to go.
That's one of the more powerful things I've seen, John, is that ability to make it very simple,
Yep.
or take it as complex as you'd like to do this. If you're a non-developer and you can do most things, but if you are a developer and want to write and can put the code in, you can translate and use this to be as complicated as you might want to ever get. Some of these process lists I've seen that you've worked on are quite long, and some are shorter than this.
Yeah, exactly. It's surprising what you can pull off, both in terms of simplicity and complexity. I don't know what we're up to on the Luminate online sync that we have. I think it's around 130 processes to do full end-to-end back and forth and make sure you've got every bit of data scraped out of there and sent back that you need. There's some APIs I've worked with where we're probably around 6 processes, but these are full syncs, and we're talking constituents, employment, relationships, educational history, interactions, revenue, you name it. Like this tool can touch any part of CRM and beyond. Like we can go in and out. Good example is when dealing with something with a third-party system like Evertrue, you could just simply set up a flat file target for that and push it to their FTP, and there you go. But if you want to take advantage of their APIs for more granular manipulation, that's the kind of thing that's available as well. Finally, when you get into adding gifts, that's its own batch. Interest and interactions, targets are their data forms. You're given a list of the data forms that are installed in CRM. You choose the one that you would like to push the data into, and it maps the target fields to the fields that are on the form.
And because it's built within CRM, you don't have to go searching for that or have a developer find the code. It's right there in the drop downs.
Yep, it's all very easily available. We've got the same search list that you see in CRM to find data forms and data lists and things like that, all available here for when you're building out your process mappings. And of course, these all get built into the system as business processes, so they can be added to queues. They can be scheduled to run automatically. All of the configurations that are built, the data maps, the sources, the targets, any of the queries that might power them in the back end, these can all have their configurations backed up and imported into other environments. So you can make your changes in a test environment, verify that they work, and then go ahead and download those configurations to push into a production environment. Of course, you can also back up what's in the production environment prior to doing that. So it's very portable. I can definitely say, even though the main audience for this is non-development folks that really just don't want to have to come to us for development consultation or to their own team for this, it's actually helped out us as integrators and as developers quite a bit. The menial tasks that this is able to replace for us, just going in and doing cleanup, I've had examples where I've created hundreds of batches through a velocity process, realize that I mapped something wrong, and then I've got a velocity process that identifies those batches and deletes all of them for me. And I don't have to go into, I don't have to go into my SQL server and do the whole myriad of changes to delete those records from all the different tables. So it's extremely powerful, very helpful. And I imagine we have got a huge list of users that would sing its praises all day.
I think some of the fun things to see are we have one client who runs a good 180 or so, 200 plus processes per day. But in my opinion, I almost call them bots, because essentially they go through and comb the database for data hygiene on every level imaginable. And it's all the things that would have been done through custom update batches that had to be reprogrammed every time over time. And you don't have to do that. And it just runs every day. And the data in CRM is better than they could have ever hoped or imagined it would be, because they have these tasks running to manage that.
Yep, and as the name suggests, they do it very quickly.
And we have, I think, well, on the unique side, since it is, I say this again, built on the Blackbaud CRM SDK, and it lives inside and touches and can pull from every part of Blackbaud CRM, just neat use cases that we didn't expect, or like the ability to jump in with the job scheduler to be able to clear. One client uses it to not have to manually clear out the data warehouse every day. Velocity process does that for them. They don't have to have somebody at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night go in and set a task for them to remember to do that when they get home at night. Velocity takes care of that for them. So just a wonderfully surprising use case.
Yeah, definitely.
What other parts would you like to show us in the last few minutes?
There's the concept of having credentials stored. So when you're dealing with third-party integrations, or maybe you just need a process to run as a specific user that has elevated rights or a service account, you can go ahead and securely store different credential types in here. And any of our processes, once you've got these credentials added, any of the processes that can take advantage of these different identities, you can go ahead and pick a credential to use. Our staging tables, this was something I mentioned quickly but kind of glossed over. So these create actual tables in the database that you can go into SQL Server and query directly if you'd like to. It looks a little complicated, but really it's just, I need to create fields and here's their data type. Once you have these in place, you can link individual fields to other parts of your database. So, maybe this external ID maps to a constituent record. You can link this to constituent, and now through ad hoc query, you have access to it. If you want to link these to batch or, non-batch processes, you have the ability to go ahead and through ad hoc query, check to see if individual records through any of these processes have already gone through a process. You can check to see their results in specific velocity processes, or in the case of batch targets, you can see if they exist in an uncommitted or committed batch at that point. And this gives you a really easy way to write queries that traverse over constantly updating or updated staging table data. So if you just want to keep transactional history in a table, you can go ahead and write your processes to make sure you're not processing the same records over and over again.
I do know that there are usually a number of questions that kind of come through people's minds. If you have a question, please do put it into chat as we keep going, and we have a few more minutes left in our time together, and would be happy to answer a few questions as we go. So please put those into chat and let us know. John, keep going, please.
Oh, it's okay. Need to regain my train of thought. We also have, to keep on the topic of trying to make sure that you have a short circuit for your data and you're not constantly reprocessing the same bits over and over again, we have our change processing options in here where you can come in and say, look, I only want to push source data to the target if a change has been made. So you just click on this, choose what your ID field is, and then automatically Velocity from here on out will keep track of the uniqueness of the data to your identifier. So if you have a constituent come in and you've got a ton of biographical data, and it'd probably be better if I actually get onto that task. So we come in here and we can say, I only want to process changes to constituents when, should probably set this up to have an ID on there, but if you were to put constituent ID on that, it would basically say, all right, all the fields that I'm going to be pushing to the target, only add them to this list if that constituent ID has changes based on the fields in your target. So if you don't care about a specific data point, then it's not going to push that through as an update, even though your auditing is going to say that that record was updated. So it can be extremely helpful. You're sitting here and someone has decided they're going to change the suffix on their profile. That's fine. That's not going to cause a change to be pushed in through here because we don't care about the suffix. That is not a part of the list. So that's extremely helpful. And then of course, when you're dealing with any processing that has to do with maybe looking at date ranges, you have the ability to go ahead and set start and end dates. And as long as the process supports that, where it will take those dates and do some kind of source data limiting with it, it will automatically either use what you've manually put in there or go off of the history and only use what has been updated since the last run of the process. We also have extensive logging, and when you get into doing anything with third parties via API, you can log full request and response data over the web, so you can have troubleshooting and see, oh, this call failed for some reason. Let me have some data available when I go reach out to the third party's tech support. That way.
John, we do have one question popped in here. It was like, it says, what is the most common platform that clients want to set velocity processes up in order to get data into CRM? What, I guess, the common integrations that we've seen?
I mean, common's tough because that is completely dependent on the organization and their needs. A lot of the time, you know, like Will mentioned before, our deduping process, the latest version of that is built on top of Velocity. So we have the ability to go in and run our deduping processes and all the change tracking for that through Velocity, which gives us an opportunity to kind of tweak the data before it goes through Blackbaud's constituent matching and merging process. But really, it's just, it seems like the most common has got to be dealing with receiving flat files from somewhere. Also, conversions from legacy systems. That's a really common one. So if you've got an external giving platform, you know, if you're not using BBIS,
Right.
and you're transitioning from one to another, this is an excellent way to do it because you essentially could just write a source that pulls from the old system and pushes directly into the new one, and you manipulate the data before it goes there. So
I think I would add, besides Luminate, I know the work you've done with HiveBright has been wonderful.
Yep.
I've Cvent from several clients. Evertrue, you already mentioned.
Yep. Engaging networks.
Engaging networks. Yes, there was one for Classy that was done. Yep. But yes, those are. I mean, the list is quite extensive, and I know we're coming to the end of our time, and there are a few questions left, so we will make sure to reach back to and get those questions answered for you. So thank you all for submitting those questions, and John, thank you so much for walking through those two of the products, and thank you for your work. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing me to present.
Wonderful. And lastly is just if you have questions, Amy, if you'll show, there's an email address to gather more information at innovations@zurigroup.com. And you can also find us on LinkedIn at Zuri Labs, or our website, labs.zurigroup.com. And on YouTube, there are a number of short videos for each of the almost all of the 32 products within the Expert Access Solutions bundle. So wonderful resources for you to check out. And please, if you'd like to start a conversation, reach out to us through the Innovations email address, and we'll be happy to talk with you at a time of your convenience. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us, and we're appreciative of that. And have a wonderful rest of your day.